Hey, what a week for the Minnesota Vikings, man. Look, I'm sitting here, coffee in hand, scrolling through the news, and right off the bat, I ran into two things that left me absolutely jaw-dropped, legitimately shocked. The first one, our head coach Kevin O'Connell made a comment at the NFL annual meetings that, depending on how you read it, might be a direct shot at our young quarterback's maturity. Our own quarterback, guys. J.J. McCarthy. And that opened up the whole debate, the entire conversation. Is the starting job competition actually real, or did McCarthy already lose the job before it even started? Because depending on the answer to that question, that changes everything about our entire offseason strategy. And the second one, Minnesota is being pointed out as one of the top candidates to sign a legendary wide receiver, a two-time All-Pro, the guy with those insane one-handed catches that the internet never forgot, to be our WR3 in 2026. And look, when I heard that news, I didn't know whether to scream with excitement or shake my head with concern about his age and injuries. But you know what's crazy? These two stories together paint a really clear picture of where the Vikings are right now as an organization. A team that still has unanswered questions at quarterback, on the offensive line, at receiver, but also has some interesting pieces on the table to work with. Today, we're breaking all of it down. But first, if you're Viking for life like me, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel. Just tap the button. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps this channel grow right alongside the team. Let's get into it. Alright guys, let's get into the Kevin O'Connell situation because this is important. So Kevin O'Connell was at the NFL annual meetings in Phoenix this week, and he said something about J.J. McCarthy that I'm telling you, the moment I read it, I had to stop and read it again to make sure I understood correctly. His exact words were, "JJ had a great preseason. I think he has perspective now." Now, look, on the surface, that sounds fine, right? Like a coach being supportive of his young quarterback, building him up. But Tyler Fornes from the Real Forno show caught something in that quote that I think a lot of us felt but couldn't quite put into words. He called it a direct shot at J.J. McCarthy's maturity level. And honestly, I don't think Fornes is wrong in that interpretation. Think about it logically. J.J. McCarthy is 23 years old. He missed all of last season with a knee injury that required surgery. And now, instead of coming back to a team that's rallying behind him like their unquestioned guy, like their franchise quarterback of the future, his own head coach is out here talking publicly about how J.J. has perspective now. Perspective on what exactly, KOC? That McCarthy needs to grow up? That he wasn't mentally ready before? That he lacked maturity? And here's what makes this even more layered, even more complicated. The entire coaching staff keeps pushing this open competition narrative between J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray. Every single person on that staff is singing the same song, the same message. And look, I get it. You don't want to tip your hand publicly and create unnecessary drama. But come on, when your head coach is dropping subtle comments about your young quarterback's maturity while Kyler Murray, a former #1 overall pick, is sitting right there in the quarterback room, I mean, are we really supposed to believe this competition is 50-50? I want to believe in J.J. McCarthy. I really do. The potential is there. But I'd be lying if I said this didn't make me a little nervous about his future with this organization. Now, moving on from the quarterback situation for a moment, let's talk about Jonathan Greenwood because this one's been bothering me too. O'Connell said publicly that he expects Greenwood to stay on the team, that he's part of the plan. Sounds reassuring, right? Well, Fornes put it perfectly in his analysis. KOC basically just threw a smokescreen to the media. The door for a trade is wide open. And when a head coach has to go out of his way at the annual meetings to say, "I expect him to stay," that usually means the conversations about moving him are already happening behind closed doors with other teams. That's just how this league works with these things. Now, not everything from the meetings was a headache or cause for concern. There were actually some genuinely good moves to talk about. The Vikings exercised Jordan Addison's fifth-year option for $18 million. And look, $18 million for a receiver of Addison's caliber right now, that is an absolute bargain. Full stop. It gives the team 2 full years of control before they even have to sit down and talk about a long-term extension. That's smart roster building. That's the kind of quiet, calculated move that doesn't make headlines, but absolutely matters when you're trying to build a legitimate contender. And then there's Blake Brandel officially transitioning to center on the offensive line. If you've been following the Vikings closely, this wasn't a huge surprise. It was kind of the direction things were heading for a while. But now it's officially confirmed, and it sets the tone for what the team is looking for in the upcoming draft. They need offensive line depth desperately, and they know it. Speaking of the draft, Tyler Forness ran a full 7-round mock draft using the brand new A to Z Sports Simulator, and I have to say this one was actually fun to go through and analyze. The Vikings traded down from pick 18 to pick 21, picking up an extra 4th-round pick from Pittsburgh in the process. Smart move to accumulate assets. And here's how the full draft board played out in the simulation. In the 1st round, pick 21, C.J. Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. 2nd round, pick 49, Christian Miller, defensive tackle, also from Georgia. 3rd round, pick 82, A.J. Husley, safety out of LSU. 3rd round again, pick 97, Ted Hurst, wide receiver from Georgia State. 4th round, pick 121, Trey Zunn, offensive tackle from Texas A&M. 5th round, pick 163, Demony Jackson, cornerback out of Alabama. 6th round, pick 196, Skylar Gill-Howard, defensive tackle from Texas Tech. And then in the 7th round, pick 234, Eric Gentry, linebacker from USC. And pick 235, John Michael Schmitz, tight end out of Wyoming. The simulator graded this draft class a B+ overall. And the note that got me was this one. It said Minnesota bet on potential throughout, and that the Schmitz pick at 235 was a steal that other GMs would envy. A 7th-round tight end as the hidden gem of the class. I don't know, man. That's either genius scouting or a reach, but I kind of love the swing for upside. Overall though, this mock draft addresses the defensive line, the linebacker core, gives the team some offensive line depth, and even sneaks in a receiver. It's not perfect, but it's the kind of draft that tells you this front office is thinking about the long game. Alright, so that's where we stand on the J.J. McCarthy situation, the Jonathan Greenid smoke screen, Jordan Addison's option, and the draft picture. But here's the thing. While all of that is going on, there's another conversation happening about this offense that I think is just as important. Because when you really dig into the wide receiver room right now, there's a name that keeps coming up. A name that most people weren't expecting. A guy who at his peak was one of the most electric players in the entire NFL. And the question is, could he actually end up in purple and gold? Okay, so let's talk about the wide receiver room because this is one of those situations where the more you look at it, the more it starts to bother you. On the surface, you'd think the Vikings are fine at receiver. You've got Justin Jefferson, one of the best in the entire league, arguably the best. You've got Jordan Addison right behind him, who just got his 5th-year option locked in at a bargain. Sounds solid, right? But then you get to the WR3 spot, and that's where things get real quiet, real fast. Right now, as of the end of March, the 3rd receiver on this roster is Tristan Jackson. And look, I don't want to be harsh on the guy because he's young and he's still developing. But the numbers tell the story clearly. In 17 games last season, his entire rookie year, Jackson caught 3 passes for 25 yards total. 3 receptions. He played 46 offensive snaps the whole season, compared to 293 snaps on special teams. That means the coaching staff was basically using him as a special teams player, not a real offensive weapon. And here's why that matters so much. Kevin O'Connell loves to run 3 receiver sets. That's his offense. That's how this team wants to operate. So when your WR3 is a guy who barely touched the field on offense all of last year, that is a real problem. That's not me being negative. That's just the reality of the situation. So the Vikings need someone in that receiver room. And that's where this story gets interesting because the name that keeps coming up, the name that apparently caught some serious attention recently, is Odell Beckham Jr. Yes, OBJ. Now, before you either get super hyped or completely roll your eyes, let me just lay out the facts because I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. OBJ showed up at Tom Brady's Fanatics Flag Football Classic last weekend and apparently looked good enough that people started talking about a potential comeback. After the event, reporter Jordan Schultz confirmed that Beckham genuinely intends to play in 2026. He missed all of last season sitting out. On top of that, the NFL suspended him for 6 games in 2025 for violating the league's performance-enhancing drug policy. So it's been a rough stretch for him, no question. But here's the thing about Odell Beckham Jr. When this guy was healthy and locked in, he was one of the most talented receivers to ever play this game. He came into the league in 2014, won Offensive Rookie of the Year, made 3 straight Pro Bowls, and was a 2-time second-team All-Pro. Over his career, he has 575 receptions, 7,987 yards, and 59 touchdowns across 10 professional seasons. That's a Hall of Fame-level resume if he'd stayed healthy. He'll turn 34 in November. He played just 9 games with Miami in 2024, catching 9 passes for 55 yards. The Dolphins paid him $3 million for that limited production. And here's the kicker. Minnesota could potentially sign him for the veteran minimum, which is $1.3 million in 2026. That's it. That is basically a free swing on a guy who on his best day can change a game. Now, is he the same OBJ from his Giants days? Probably not. But as a WR3 in a Kevin O'Connell offense playing alongside Justin Jefferson, you don't need him to be that guy anymore. You just need him to be a reliable third option who can win a one-on-one matchup when the defense is focused on JJ or Addison. That role fits, and at that price, it's hard to argue against at least bringing him in. But Odell isn't the only name being mentioned here. Judd Zulgad over at Score North brought up DeAndre Hopkins as another possible veteran option. And this one has a different kind of energy to it because Hopkins has a contract option with the Vikings for next season at an affordable number. 5-time All-Pro, still productive. And this is the part that makes it feel like it could actually happen. Hopkins is a free agent.